Hello everyone, in this video we're going to graph this sinusoid, and because of the negative sign here we know it's going to be a reflected one. So the standard form for such a sinusoid we know is y equals a plus b sine of c times x minus d. Now in this scenario, we know that A is going to be the baseline, B, rather the absolute value of B will be the amplitude, C is 2 pi over the period, and D is the phase shift. Now, if we rewrite this in this standard form, we end up with y equals 0 minus 4 sine of 2 pi times x minus 0. So we know that the baseline A is just going to be 0. B will be the absolute value of -4, which will be 4. So the amplitude is 4. The C is 2 pi over the period, and we know that C is 2 pi itself. So we end up with 2 pi equals 2 pi over P. If we cross multiply here, we get 2 pi P equals 2 pi. Dividing both sides by 2 pi gives us a period of 1, which is rather non-typical because we're used to having pi's in the period, but when the constant here C has a pi in it, this is what happens. You end up with whole number periods. The phase shift D is clearly 0, so it's not shifted horizontally. Now, we know that the regular sine curve starts at the baseline, then goes to a max point, then goes to the baseline again, min point back to the baseline. This is a reflected one, so it's going to behave differently. It'll start at the baseline, go to a min point, then back to baseline, then it'll go to a max point, then back to baseline. And one period of this happens quite quickly over a period of just 1. So from 0 to 1, it'll cover one full cycle of its existence. And so as far as the 5 significant points on one cycle, we know that it starts at 0 and it ends at 0 plus 1 or just 1. And we know that each of these significant points along the way where it'll hit a minimum point and then back to baseline and a max and then back to baseline will happen at distances of 1/4 of the period. So 1/4 of 1 is just 1/4. So we can start at 0. That'll be the first significant point, and then add 1/4 to that to get 1/4, add 1/4 again to get a half, and add 1/4 to a half to get 3/4, and of course we already know the end point is going to be 1. So this way we know what the significant points are for one cycle of this sinusoid, and we know the baseline is 0, and we know the amplitude is 4. So it's going to go 4 above the baseline and 4 below the baseline as far as the height of the sinusoid is concerned. So that's why we know the max values here are going to be at 4 and -4. And here we show 2 cycles of this sinusoid as requested. And we know that one cycle will go from 0 to 1, and the next one will go from 1 to 2. And of course, we already covered the period and the amplitude. And that's how you go about a graph of a sinusoid like this, which is reflected with respect to its baseline. So be safe until our next video.